Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'll start. It's wonderful to see so many people here this evening. On behalf of the Savethealex campaign, I'd like to welcome you all. My name is Wakar Azmi. I've been asked to chair this meeting. So I will be setting some ground rules to just ensure that we run this meeting smoothly. The purpose of this public meeting is, as you know, is the Savethealex campaign. We've organized this meeting for two things really. One is to understand what the current situation is, and the second is to give feedback, your views in terms of what you would like to happen, what you like to see. So those are the two reasons for this meeting. We've got a number of people here on stage, and I'll be introducing two people who will be doing two presentations, so two people will be speaking. The rest will be taking questions from yourself. So if I can start off with on my right, and right of the far right is Ian Dibble, who is the editor of Toronto Standard. Next to Ian is Lainey Walsh, who is a volunteer member of the Savethealex campaign. And next to Lainey is Neil Stott, who I'm sure many of you will know, who is chairman of the Savethealex campaign. And next to Neil is Ian Johnson, who is a volunteer member of the Savethealex campaign. And Ian does all the communication bits for the Savethealex campaign. So all the things that you see here, understand Ian's been behind that. And on my left, immediate left, is Jonathan Wells, who is the chairman of the Redditch and Bronzeville Clinical Commissioning Group. And next to Jonathan, we have Simon Haresnake, who is the chief officer of the Redditch and Bronzeville Clinical Commissioning Group. And next to Simon is Julie Adams, who is the patient public involvement lead. And next to Julie is Dr. Richard Davis, who is the assistant clinical chair. Okay, before we start the presentations, just some ground rules really, which I'd be really grateful if we can all respect, just to ensure that the meeting goes ahead smoothly. First of all, if you are a member of representing an organization, or if you're a counsellor, then I would be really grateful if you could, when you're asking questions, if you could just make yourself known in terms of your name and which organization you represent, or if you're a counsellor, then just to say you're a counsellor from Redditch or Bronzeville Council. If you're a member of the public, then you don't need to. If you want to say your name, then you're welcome to say, but it can be anonymous. So that's absolutely fine. Please do raise your hands when you're asking questions so that I can see you. I will try to make sure that I get to, in the time available, get to everybody and give everybody an equal opportunity to ask questions, as well as the panel to answer questions. But please do raise your hand so I can see you, and I'll make a note, and I will come to you. If I've missed you, then please don't worry, I will come to you. There's a reason as to why I've gone to somebody else, but I will come back to you. You'll see on your seats a questionnaire which has been placed there. Please do take time just before you leave to fill that questionnaire. And there's volunteers available who can hand your questionnaires to. When you're asking questions, there are volunteers both here, upstairs as well as downstairs, who will be coming to you with the microphone. So please use the microphone so everybody can hear the questions you're asking. Right, before we start, mobile phones, which can be a nuisance sometimes. So useful tool, but useful technology, but nuisance sometimes. But if you could please, if I can kindly ask you to switching mobile phones off. Really grateful for that. The first presentation is from Neil Stoke, the chairman of Savethealex campaign. Many of you will know him. He's been working extremely hard with his team, with the volunteers, and it's amazing that from what I've seen, the passion and the hard work that's going in terms of raising awareness about the issues that's facing all of us. I've been living in Bromsgrove for nearly 12 years and really been humbled by the work that the volunteers have done who are here and continue to do. Neil first launched the Savethealex campaign back in 2005. And at that time, which you'll know that by 2007, all the services were saved. But on 14th of June 2013, when the Alex was put at risk again, he rejuvenated the campaign. Neil has two children. Both of them were born at the Alexandra Hospital. He has lived in Redditch for 18 years. He previously worked for Redditch Borough Council as at the Arrow Valley Countryside Centre as Environmental Education Officer and also as Community Landscape Officer. He's currently a director of a family-run business local to the area. So if I can please ask Neil to give his presentation. Before I do that, could I please ask you to, for all the hard work that he has been doing and he continues to give him a round of applause. Could I ask the house lights to be taken down, please? Thank you.
Remember this? This was the document was launched on June the 14th, 2012. It outlined 6 models for future healthcare and the case for change. These were the models that were proposed, with some of the most severe cuts being a total loss of the hospital or being downgraded to nothing more than a cuts and bruises clinic. As a result, the Savethealex campaign was launched. We held our first protest meeting before the first so-called engagement meeting, and the people of Redditch, Bromsgrove and the wider area stood up for what they felt. I was told at the time it was a done deal. What's the point? It's already going to happen. They're going to close our hospital, they're going to build houses on it. Behind you, or behind me, is the original timetable for what we were told when they needed to make a decision. You'll see it clearly says December 2012, decision on preferred option. And it wasn't our preferred option we wanted a decision on, it was their preferred option, hence why we're here today, because we, the campaign, the public, the politicians all stood up and said, no, it's not good enough. And we and you have made a difference. Last year, the Joint Service Review spent 19,000 on 7 so-called engagement exercises. What we've got today, I believe, is just over 300 people come to listen, and it just shows the continued support for the local services in Redditch. So, what has changed? Well, the biggest protest that Redditch has ever seen. Over 2,000 people on the streets making their voice heard. A cross-party, cross-county, cross-council petition that saw over 53,000 signatures for people calling for services to remain local at the Alexandra Hospital. So have we made a difference? Well, yes, we have. Option F no longer exists. The complete closure of the Alexandra Hospital is not on the table anymore. Option E has also gone. Model D has been ruled out as well, along with Model B. So that leaves us very much with Model C and the no change stance to maintain things where they are. The other major change is very much because of the campaign, the lobbying by political parties, the lobbying of our commissioning group that was here tonight, there are now two provider options. One which we've heard about, which is a campaign we've rejected, the Eucharistic Acute Hospital Trust provider, and the second one, which I hope we can learn a little bit more about tonight, option 2, University Hospitals Trust Birmingham. What I'd like to do at this point, so we can get into some of that detail, is hand over back to our chair, so he can introduce our next speaker.
Okay. Thank you for that, Neil. The next speaker is Jonathan Wells, who is the chairman of NHS Redditch and Bromsgrove Thinking Commission Group. Redditch and Bromsgrove CCG, for short, is a new organization which I'm sure many of you will know. It's a new NHS organization. It assumes responsibility on 1st of April 2013. It's responsible for about £180 million of public money, which will spend in consultation with 22 GP member practices and local residents in order to provide the best high-quality service for Redditch and Bromsgrove. Jonathan, as chairman, devotes 2 days per week for this work, and the remainder of his time is spent as a GP at Hillview Medical Centre, Redditch. So could you please welcome Jonathan Wells.
Thank you. I didn't expect applause. That's very kind of you. I hope you're still clapping again.
The questions will come later.
So yes, I'm Jonathan Wells. I'm the chair and clinical lead for the CCG. I just give you a very brief history of the CCG. My talk is about 18 minutes and 20 seconds long. I think this afternoon, so we'll get through it. The CCG is a membership organisation of all 22 practices in Redditch and Bromsgrove, covering all 171,000 patients. We were fully authorised as a CCG on the 18th of January, one of only 33 so far to be fully authorised without any conditions. Worcestershire PCT, previous organisation, ends on the 31st of March, and we will then become fully responsible for commissioning most healthcare that you will experience, i.e. routine and emergency care, outpatients, out of hours, ambulances, mental health and learning disability services. We won't be commissioning GP services directly, that will be done by the National Commissioning Board, but we will be responsible for quality in general practice and looking at any unwarranted variation between provisional practices. So we're very much a new organisation. We're very much a different organisation. We've got 7 local GPs on the governing body. Like me, these GPs have been in the community for a long time. I've been a GP for 20 years now. Where's that gone? In Redditch. And we're here for the long term. I would hope to still be working here in 15 years' time, God willing. And we're trying to do the best that we possibly can for our patients. And we want to engage our patients and the public in all the decisions that we make. So the panel members tonight, myself, so Simon Haresnave is the Chief Officer, and he's the Accounting Officer for the organisation. Julie Adams is our Patient and Public Involvement Lead, and she's also a full voting member on our governing body. Dr. Richard Davis, GP in Ashford Bank, is the Assistant Clinical Chair. So I'm going to just take you through the Joint Services Review and remind you what's happened, and then we'll talk about 2 options. So there are 2 reasons for the Joint Services Review, clinical and financial. And I think a lot of people have mixed the 2 up and think that this is all about money, and it isn't. There are very good clinical reasons for it as well. And around October 2011, the commissioners were approached by some of the specialists in working in Worcestershire Acute Trust who said that we could have a problem going into the future, in particular with the provision of A&E, obstetrics and gynecology and paediatrics, due to a shortage of specialists in the field. There are also separately financial pressures, and there are £50 million of savings that need to be saved by 2015. So the Joint Services Review was set up in January 2012, and the reason it was set up was to come up with a solution that would enable Worcester Acute Trust to become a viable organisation going forward into the future, both clinically and financially. So the way we did that was to set up clinical working groups. There are 120 senior doctors and nurses across Worcestershire who met in clinical working groups on several occasions and reviewed all the evidence for how we should best provide acute care, i.e. hospital care, for the community. And we also had independent advisors from outside. And a case for change was developed. So first of all, historically in the past, more experienced doctors, specialists, have been available during weekdays, and then junior doctors have been available during the rest of the time, overnight and at weekends, with the consultants only on call. Now, the Royal Colleges have recommended that actually, in order to have the best possible care and the best possible outcomes for the patients, you should have the consultants in charge of patient care from the beginning of the patient journey, far more of the time. So the Royal Colleges have recommended increasing consultant presence in the acute specialties in the hospitals. It's a bit of a busy slide, but this is a summary of what the Royal Colleges have suggested. So, for example, if we just look at a couple of these. So the Royal College of Physicians looking at medical care of medical patients with things like pneumonia, etc., have recommended that there should be round-the-clock consultant supervision of acute medical units and consultant reviews of all acute admission within 12 hours. For A&E services, there need to be 10 whole-time equivalent minimum A&E consultants. You can see on there, for example, paediatrics, if they're talking about having, again, 10 whole-time equivalent paediatric consultants. And for obstetrics and gynecology, when there are more than 5,000 births per year, you're looking at 24-hour cover being required. So, in Worcestershire, in order to meet these Royal College recommendations, there would have to be very significant increases in the numbers of full-time specialist consultants in our hospitals. And this is very unlikely to be achieved due to a national shortage of doctors, and particularly of middle-grade doctors. Now, one thing that has been said to me is, well, surely that is just because Worcester Acute haven't managed to attract staff, and surely it's a case of just paying them. The double whammy on this is that even if you double the amount of money going to health service to 200 billion from the current 100 billion, you still couldn't have specialist hospitals everywhere, because in order to be authorised as a specialist, you have to have enough experience coming through the door. So if Worcester and Redditch and QE were all major specialist hospitals, the specialists working there wouldn't gain enough experience to be safe, because you have to do procedures a certain number of times to be good at it. So in case for change, it concluded that Worcester Acute Trust should centralise full A&E, obstetrics and gynecology, and overnight paediatric services onto one site. And for clinical safety reasons, the CCG has accepted that case for change. Last summer, these decisions started to go out into the public. And there's a JSR communication team, headed up by Francis Thomas, who is here tonight, who are part of the Worcester Acute team and have been responsible for getting the message out there last summer. The CCG last summer was a developing organisation, and we were in a position we wanted to listen to what our patients had to say about that. We've been engaging with the patients and the public. We've been building up our EPI, Patient and Public Involvement Forum, with Julie Adams as the chair, and she's on the governing body. We've been engaging with Savethealex. I've got my Twitter feed recently. I'd like more of you to follow, please. And we came up with a commitment several months ago and we put it out in a press release last month. And our commitment is that we want the Alexandra Hospital to remain a thriving local hospital, providing a wide range of services, the widest possible range of services that are safe clinically and are financially viable. And these services must include routine and emergency care and services for women and children. So you might say, well, is no change an option? Now when we went out on our side to speak to alternative providers in the surrounding areas, we asked them, first of all, would they be able to come in and provide the existing range of services, i.e. the overnight A&E, PEDS and OBS, and they were unable to do so precisely because of those same clinical reasons that I've just gone through. So no change, unfortunately, is not an option. However, in our discussions, in particular with the UHB, University Hospital Trust, it became clear that they were interested and keen to come and provide a range of services at the Alexandra Hospital. And we were very excited by that possibility, and we introduced that option into the joint services review process. So last summer, after the engagement, Savethealex campaign did a fantastic job and worked really hard getting those opinions through to the commissioners about the total unacceptability of some of the options that were on the sheet. And if you remember, initially there were 13 options and well, subdivisions of options, and options D, E, and F, which were viable options recommended as being possible outcomes, would have meant that the Alexandra Hospital would have been downgraded to a non-duty unit and an outpatient centre only, and that was totally unacceptable. As a result of that campaign, at the steering group meeting in September, October time, those options were removed from the list. And Worcester Acute Trust agreed to work hard on developing option 1 over the coming months, and I'll go on to talk about that a little bit next. More recently, last month, the Worcester Clinical Senate, which is a representative body, has representatives from the senior doctors and nurses across Worcestershire, across both primary and secondary care, reviewed all the clinical arguments to date, and it formally recommended that Worcester Acute Trust should centralise full A&E, overnight paediatrics and obstetrics and gynecology at Worcestershire Royal Hospital. However, it also formally recommended that option 2, which I'll come on to describe in a few minutes, is worked up to the same level as option 1 in order to allow the patients and the public and all of us to compare two options side by side to see what we think is the best outcome. On the 26th of February, the JSR, Joint Services Review Steering Group, formally accepted both of those recommendations, and the JSR is now complete. So at the conclusion of the Joint Services Review, 2 options remain. I think a lot of people have felt that there was a done deal and there's nothing left to look at or fight for. That's absolutely not the case. There are 2 very clear and distinct options. Worcester Acute Trust has received some legal advice, which has advised it that it shouldn't speak one-to-one with the UHB providers due to competition law. And we are currently looking at that with the Department of Health to get that resolved. But once that is resolved, the board of Worcester Acute Hospitals Trust has given an absolute commitment to work cooperatively with UHB on option 2. And I very much welcome that commitment. The Joint Services Review is part of the story. It's about acute services. But what we must do as a CCG is to try and keep patients out of hospital. There's a lot more to life than just hospitals. You have to remember that 90% of healthcare happens out of hospitals. So we've been working very hard as a CCG in trying to enhance community care. We've introduced the virtual ward to try and keep patients in the right place at the right time. So if they don't need to go to hospital, the patients can be cared for either at home, in the nursing homes, or the Princess of Wales perhaps, then that should be done rather than risking a hospital admission. We're also looking within the successor to an A&E department of having a fully integrated service with GP out of hours, because one of the confusions at the moment is that patients often don't know what to do out of hours, and then whether to go to AD, whether to go to minor injuries, whether to go to a GP out of hours service. And it would be great to have one front door that people know what to do. And obviously with the changes potentially coming to our services review, we need to invest in the ambulance service, so that if patients with serious medical conditions need to be taken elsewhere to specialist hospitals, then we have the capacity to do that. So we'll spend a few minutes talking about option one. Option one, as I explained, has been worked up in quite some detail over the last 6 months, so it's a much more advanced stage of option two. So A&E, as we know, organised A&E will be, for Worcester Acute Trust, will be centralised at Worcester Royal Hospital. And instead, at the Alexandra Hospital, will be an emergency urgent care centre, staffed 24 hours a day by consultant specialist doctors, ready to receive patients by ambulance and from GPs with a whole range of medical conditions, including frail elderly patients with pneumonia, kidney infections, etc., etc. There will also be a GP out of hours service there, a paediatric assessment unit, 12 hours a day, weekdays, and 8 hours at the weekends. Serious problems, including surgery, because they won't be doing any acute surgery, and trauma emergencies will be transported to Worcester Royal Hospital or elsewhere. And Worcester has estimated that around 75% of patients who currently attend A&E would still be seen locally at the Alexandra Hospital, and about 75% of emergency medicine would stay at the Alexandra Hospital. Now, we already know that for things such as heart attack and stroke and major trauma, your chances of surviving and of surviving in a less disabled state are very significantly improved if you're taken to a specialist hospital where they have.
If you're alive when you've got there.
Where you have consultants present.
If you're alive when you've got there.
There will be some questions after that. That's a very good point, but there is no evidence from across the country that a 30-minute ambulance journey affects your mortality. And in fact,
can I just say that there will be plenty of opportunity to ask questions and give your views, but could we please let Dr. Jonathan Wells complete his presentation? Thank you.
I agree, it's a very difficult one, but over the country, 30 minutes does not reduce your mortality, but it does. If you go to a specialist hospital, you are far more likely, because we're talking about people with heart attacks and strokes, and if they are transferred to a specialised hospital, they have a better chance of surviving. Obstetrics, all current midwifery and related outpatient services will be made. There will be a choice of services available to women with low risk of pregnancy who are not expected to develop complications, so delivery at home, or to new midwife-led units in Redditch, or a midwife-led unit alongside the obstetric unit at Worcester Royal, or a delivery at Worcester Royal with Birmingham Women's. Children's services will be centralised at Worcester Royal, enabling high-quality, safe care. Children's outpatients will remain at all 3 sites, and there will be 2 new PAUs at Worcester Royal and the Annex. All emergency surgery will have to take place at Worcester Royal. Exceptions will be fractured hip and some water problems. Less complex surgical work will be moved to the Annex and the Kidderminster sites. And day case and intermediate services will be offered at the Annex and the Kidderminster. Urology, most of that will happen at the Annex. And there will be a trauma and orthopaedic centre which will deal with broken bones and orthopaedics for the whole of the county. So option one has been worked up in a lot more detail. There's still a lot more detail to come out in the proper engagement phase, which will be May and June, when more figures and examples of if you have a certain type of condition, what will happen and how you know where to go. So moving on to option two, which is the alternate provider option that we've introduced into the JSL process. This is an outline only at this stage. It's not been fully worked up. Now, you may have heard some comments in the press about any effects on services in West Worcestershire from having a UHB working at the Alexandra site. In particular, there are some concerns about cancer services and specialised services. Now, those services are the responsibility of the area team of the National Commissioning Board, NHS Commissioning Board. And they will ensure that those services are available for all patients in Worcestershire, so there's no reason for concern. And whatever happens, Worcester Royal Hospital will be a specialised hospital. It will have overnight A&E, overnight PEDS, and obstetrics and gynecology. And Kidderminster Hospital will be an elective centre as it is at the moment, and if anything, it will have more activity because Worcester Royal will need to move some activity across. So what are the potential benefits of option 2? Well, first of all, management and ownership of Alexandra Hospital will be taken over by the University Hospital Birmingham's trusts. Now, this is a very successful foundation trust with a proven track record. They will come in and take over the management and the running of the Alexandra site, such that the Alexandra Hospital would become an integral part of the University Hospital's Birmingham NHS Foundation Trust. And there would be the option for staff to work across both sites and to rotate around. UHB would make significant investment in the Alexandra site, which is something that we haven't heard for many years. There are also good transport links to the QE site, which is one of the things that public engagement has taught us. Patients are very fearful of having to be transported down to Worcester, having to get to Worcester, it's very difficult to get to Worcester. Whereas for UHB and QE, it is much easier to get there. Whereas with option 1, Worcester Acute is trying to keep a range of services at the Alex, but significant amount of care would be moved down to Worcester. With option 2, UHB would be trying to maximise the amount of acute care, emergency care done at the Alexandra site. And it may well be that a higher percentage of cases could be dealt with at the Alex as a result of that. There is early days on the modelling. They will be working this up more over the next 3 months, and we'll be telling you more about that then. But that means that there could be less patients having to go elsewhere, and of course, the ones who do go elsewhere, you're looking at mainly the QE, which, as we said, is easy to get to. We have a new fully integrated front door. They work with us in order to sort that out, and there will be telemedicine links through to the A&E department at Queen Elizabeth Hospital. There will be an obstetric assessment unit provided locally by Birmingham Women's. Inpatient consultant bed obstetrics.
What's the obstetric?
Sorry, childbirth.
Yeah, I know that. What's the assessment?
The assessment unit is for women who early in pregnancy but have problems like reduced movements or blood loss or whatever. They will be assessed locally at the Alexandra rather than having to be transferred.
So no deliveries at the Alex?
No deliveries at the Alex other than the midwife baby unit for low risk births. So inpatient consultant bed obstetrics and gynecology will be provided at Birmingham Women's. If you remember when I said about the fact that we'd spoken to other providers as to whether they could replicate the existing services, they've confirmed that due to the lack of specialties and all the other guidance, they wouldn't be able to open a full Bolton Gynae unit here. Choice of using Worcester Royal would remain, so patients who live within Bromsgrove, South Bromsgrove could of course still use the new hospital down at Worcester Royal. There will be a paediatric assessment unit provided by Birmingham Children's Hospital with telemedicine links up to that hospital. Inpatient paediatrics, overnight paediatrics will be provided at Birmingham Children's, outpatients at the Alex. And the QE are talking about providing a range of outpatient services that currently have to travel to the QE for. They will provide those locally at the Alexandra. And they will also offer some new services such as a renal dialysis unit, which should be very welcome. And they are also able to provide county-wide services for Worcestershire if needed, for example, urology. So that is just a very brief outline of the alternative provider solution. Now, I'm going to get questions in a minute, so I'm sure you want to ask us more questions about that. But the next steps are the joint services review process is now over, and the 3 Worcestershire CCGs are now taking this forward as a commissioner-led process. All 3 Worcestershire CCGs are absolutely agreed and working closely together. We all want option 2 to be worked up to the same degree and extent as option 1, so that it can be put out to the public to hear what you say about it. As a CCG, we remain impartial. We haven't yet decided which of those 2 options we want, and we will be listening to what you say about it when we come out in May and June to explain the 2 options. There's going to have to be a period of silence due to council elections, and that will give us some time to work out option 2 more fully. And I'd emphasise that no decision has yet been taken. There is further engagement and consultation to come. So our commitment as a CCG is that the Alexandra Hospital remains a thriving local hospital, providing a wide range of services which have to be safe and have to be viable into the future. We don't want something that is going to have to be unpicked and shut down in a year or 2's time. And services will include both routine and emergency care, and services will include. That's my bit finished. I'm sure maybe we can come back to some questions in a minute on that.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Jonathan Wells. Can I ask Neil to share his thoughts, please?
Okay, so what does this mean? When I finished my part before, we said we had option C, which is very much what you've heard about Worcester Acute Hospitals Trust, and no change. This has been a really hard decision for me, and indeed the Savethealex campaign. The campaign, you have made a difference. We won the argument. Our commissioning group went out to other providers to replicate services currently provided. They said, no, we want local services and we will go out and buy those. However, as you heard, there was a lack of mid-grade and specialist doctors, and if a leading teaching hospital hasn't got those, I don't know of a provider who has. And what I want to do as the chair of the campaign is be honest with the public where we are at, and really say that at the moment, because of the case of change, we cannot achieve a no-change position. What I believe we can achieve is maximisation of services, particularly under the Birmingham option. But just my very brief thoughts on the 2 options before we go to questions. So on option 1, as you've heard, the Acute Worcester Trust have tried to downgrade the hospital 3 times in the past 12 years, which is just unacceptable rate of change, rate of uncertainty. And indeed, we don't believe what they've come up with is a sustainable option. They've been dragged kicking and screaming to provide more than option E, F or D, and now they're around this option C, which in October they said they couldn't provide. It wasn't something they could do, and I honestly believe that if Worcester continued, we'd be here within 2 years, probably 18 months, with them saying, well, we can't continue this because of financial problems, and we will see further loss from our hospital. And indeed, the head of their finances said that they need to do more than break even. Well, they've only broke even by what I would class as an accountancy trick by reassessing the lifetime of their assets. So basically meaning that if they have a hospital scanner that they've said for the last 5 years, it now magically lasts 7. Well, when it comes to those 5 years and it doesn't work, where are they going to find the money? They have a £1.2 million deficit. It is an accountancy trick. There is no money to invest, and indeed, they have, as a 1-2 premium deficit and that around 198,000 on their balance sheet. So, and also the big indication we got from the thousands of people we've spoken to, and you made clear in the original meetings, that I can't get to Worcester, I can't get back from Worcester, so even if the ambulance got me there as quickly as possible, how do my loved ones visit me and how do I get home?
On the way.
So under option 2, we want to see the detail. Enough messing around by the acute trust, enough legal blocking. We've been to see the health minister. He's open to the idea that if the public, the politicians, the CCG say we want to see it, then that should happen. And Worcester Acute Trust need to get to grips, understand they're not financially viable with their 3 hospital solution, and let other providers come in. And that's what we'll be fighting very hard for over this so-called quiet period because of the election. What we do know is University Hospital is a successful foundation trust, and in the Queen Elizabeth is a leading teaching hospital. They don't have finance problems, they have 72 million on their balance sheet, not 198,000. They have said they want to grow our hospital, they want to introduce new services. And when you're talking about A&E and trauma, this is the place where the army guys go. Don't get better than that for treatment. They're talking about staff rotation, so not the Worcester model where it's the Worcester Royal and the Alexandra. It rotates, everybody gets to learn and develop new skills.
This would never have been a problem.
And I would agree with that, and that's very much...
That's been, to my knowledge, that's been said since we amalgamated
That was something that the campaign called for in 2005. Why can you not rotate your clinicians so they get the breadth of experience?
Because clinicians won't, consultants
What I've met with your HB, what we've been assured is that where appropriate, their clinicians will rotate. And indeed, most of the doctors at the Alps have been trained at the QE, so it's going to make sense. And then what has been the biggest concern throughout all this is, how do I get there? Now, if you get there in an ambulance, that's one thing. But if you want a loved one to come and see you, or when you get home, if you get discharged at Worcester after 8 o'clock, there are no buses, and it's a long walk down that M5. Well, the very... And you can't park there if you're lucky enough to have a car.
So how much money are Worcester Royal put in there to do this to get delivered?
They have no money to put in.
Well, I have to find it.
But really, well, option 2 now, I'm very much public transport links. The very train station that you get off to go to the QE is the same one you wait at to catch the next train to Worcester City Centre to catch a bus out. Why would you go there by public transport? You can't get to it. We're talking about transport links to our second city, not to Worcester. And this is something that team need to understand. Everything points to Birmingham for Redditch, and if the service level and the requirements, which I believe is better, closer to that 85–90% mark of emergency services kept at that, then Birmingham to me seems an absolutely no-brainer. And indeed, we've been asking on our website and in the street where people would go, and that is the response, that is the choice of why, because this isn't just Redditch and Bromsgrove, Ulster, Henley and Arden, and Studley, etc. It clearly says that people go to Birmingham because they can get there. Ultimately, this is what the message I want to get across, and this is what we'll be calling for. I want to see 2 options on the table, and I've made it clear to the acute trust that what they came up with 2 weeks ago is unacceptable to the campaign, and I believe totally unacceptable to the public here tonight and the wider community.
Okay, thank you, Neil. Can we have the lights back on, please? We'll open up for questions, but before we do, can I just explain that if you see the panel members shivering, just don't think that they're people. It is quite cold up here. It seems like The air conditioning source. So, okay, I'm going to. I'll be taking questions. So I'll be opening the floor. I've got the gentleman there, and I've got the gentleman at the top, and then yourself. Yes, please. Okay, can I start with you, please?
Hello, good evening. This is a question for Dr. Jonathan Wells. With both options, am I right in thinking that both options give the midwifery-led services at the Alex? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. My wife gave birth to our firstborn in 2011. She was low risk. It was her first baby, and it wasn't until she arrived at the Alex, whereby she was given an examination, it was found that there were complications and the baby was breech, and I had to do an emergency C-section within 15 minutes to avoid a catastrophe. How would that work under the proposals where you have a low-risk birth, thinking it's a low-risk birth, when in actual fact you get significant complications where you need to act very quickly?
Yes, absolutely. That is a concern. That sort of thing can happen with home delivery, it can happen with a midwife-led unit anywhere. And what you have to have is very good transfer protocols. You have to have flying squads. You have to have the ambulances ready to take the patient to the other centre. And the alternative is consultant-led delivery either up in Birmingham Women's or down in Worcester Road. Because unfortunately, the fact is that isn't going to be an obstetric unit at the Alex. That's not what we wanted. We've tried our hardest to avoid that, but that is the situation.
Okay, so what you basically described then is basically fatality then. What would have happened under that example? Would you agree?
I can't comment on a particular case because
Well, under that example, sorry, the baby wouldn't have been born because it was breech and very significant complications. So,
but that delivery may have taken place at the Birmingham Women's.
No, she was low risk.
she was low risk. She was expecting a birth at Redditch, and it wasn't until...
And that sort of thing can happen now with home deliveries and in midwife-led units. And it is one of the risks of home delivery and midwife-led units. And people do need to be aware of that when they choose, if you do choose a low-risk birth, there is a risk. And I'm afraid that's the way it is. There won't be a consultant-led obstetric unit at the Alex now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, can I just, before I go to the next question, can I just say that in terms of Dr. Jonathan Wells' presentation, Jonathan wasn't responding, it's not from the Worcestershire Acute NHS Trust. Just to make that clear, he's chairman of a new organisation which is being established by legislation, and it assumes responsibility on 1st of April for the health and well-being of residents in Redditch and Bromsgrove. So from 1st of April, Jonathan and his team, Simon Harsnake, who is the chief officer, and other senior members will be taking responsibility and will be working on the plans in terms of the option 1, option 2 that you've just heard. Okay, the gentleman at the top.
David Payne, my county councillor. I would want to echo what's been said about the QE. My late wife's life was extended by many years, I believe, by the excellent care she had at the QE. But my question relates to, you talked about the Competition Commission. I can't for the life of me see how the Competition Commission comes into the scene when you've got two public bodies. But anyway, leaving aside the legal shenanigans, has the university hospital organisation been given full access to the Alex so that it can determine how it could incorporate the Alex into its system, into its sort of area, and all the statistics? I want to know if they've been given all the access that they need to be able to put together a decent case. Thank you.
Good evening. Perhaps I could take that one. I think, as Jonathan mentioned, there is a complex interplay between procurement law, principally European procurement law, which doesn't apply absolutely to health services in the way it applies to other things, but does apply in some instances to health services. And then there's government policy around choice, contestability and competition. Very, very complex area, and those of you been watching the news will know that some of this has played out nationally over the last few weeks, with the government trying to get some secondary legislation through the House of Lords, and they're going to go back and rewrite some of it because it wasn't clear. So it is a very complex area. At the moment, what we need to do to work option 2 up is allow the alternative providers in Birmingham access to information that's available to us in Worcestershire. But in doing so, Worcestershire Acute Hospitals Trust, in providing that information, we've got to be very clear that we're not tripping ourselves up on some contestability procurement challenge, which could cause us problems further down the line. So I think, as Jonathan said, Worcestershire Acute Hospitals Trust has said they are very keen to work with their colleagues in Birmingham, and their Birmingham colleagues are very keen to work with them. But we just have to be absolutely clear that in providing that information, we're aware and we're not going to trip ourselves up on any competition procurement issues. So we're trying to sort that out in the next week or two at a very high level in the health service, including a political level. Once we've done that, then the two trusts need to sit down, share information, and really work at option 2. But that's not happening at the moment for the reasons I've explained. It will need to happen over the coming weeks as we work at option 2, and we just need to resolve some of these tricky issues around health policy and European procurement law.
So all that information will be fully shared?
That's the intention, yes.
No, that's not the intention. Will it be fully shared?
It will be fully shared, both the trusts, and we're a clinical commission group, of course, but Worcestershire Acute Hospitals Trust and Birmingham, the Foundation Trust in Birmingham, have agreed to share, work together, really work on option 2, so long as we can get through this sort of tricky point about health policy and procurement law. We can't, the trust has got to come to its own conclusion that this is the right thing to do, and it's not going to cause any illegal problems down the line. The worst thing we could do is, of course, not to take those many legal issues now, find in a couple of months' time when we've got option 2 worked up, that we've then got a problem. So we just need a little bit of time over the next week or two to sort that out, and then both trusts are fully committed to sharing all the available necessary information, staffing, etc., to really work at option 2.
Okay, Neil Stone.
To put it simply, yes, it's complex, but no, they have not been given access. They've only seen the site from a bloody Google map, and it's not good enough. Who is bringing up the legal stuff is Worcester Acute Hospitals Trust. I call, and we've met with Dr. Stanhope, the Health Minister. If it's what the CCGs want, if it's what the public want and the local politicians want, we should be allowed to look at alternative providers to maximise our services at our hospital. This has gone on since January of last year, presented to the public June of this year, apparently was a done deal by December, and here we are in March, looking at a final conclusion in November. These decisions need to happen now for the patients, the public and the staff.
Yeah, yeah.
The lady in the 4th row, please.
Thank you. If I mean, it's change either way, whether we go to Birmingham or to Worcester. When is this change envisaged?
1st of April 2015 is the option 1, which we keep trust. We're thinking that would be when it happened. It will happen on an ongoing basis once it's agreed. I mean, basically, it will come out to further engagement in May and June, and then the formal consultation will be August to September, October, decision taken in November, and then work will happen very quickly thereafter to put the systems in place. But obviously it'll take a few months.
I'd just like to put, I actually work for Worcestershire Acute, but I'm retired now. I happen to know that there are no maternity units in the West Midlands with any spare capacity. Birmingham Women's, Worcester Royal, bursting, absolutely bursting at the seams. Their average length of stay is like less than 1 day. I mean, a caesarean section, if you would stay 2 days, you're very lucky. The only maternity unit in the whole of the West Midlands with any spare capacity was Redditch. They are now doing 300 deliveries more than they were 2 years ago. We all know that the birth rate is set to explode, next year especially. It's just, I think everybody's living in cuckoo land if they think that we've got the space for these women to deliver babies.
That's part of the reason why it takes some time to get these changes through, because clearly if these changes occur at the Alex, it means services moving around. We need to make sure the right capacity is available in Worcester and in Birmingham. And some of that capacity will be moving from, say, Birmingham or Worcester to the Alex. You know, this is not, you know, this is a change of services, some services in, some services out. But quite frankly, the Clinical Commissioning Group, our job is to provide safe, secure services. We would not do that until we're absolutely clear these changes are going to result in safe services. The capacity would have to be put in those other units before these changes occur. I mean, they would not be allowed to occur. We would not allow them to occur if that capacity was not there. So there will need to be building works in other hospitals to take account of any transfers out of the Alex. That's an absolute cast iron guarantee.
Okay, I've got a lady at the back there, row 9, and then I've got a gentleman at the top, and then a gentleman at the back. I'm not going to take any more, you're going to confuse me, so once these people have asked they've asked their questions, then I will ask for more hands to be raised up, and then I'll take it then, please. So, lady at the back.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you to the Alex A&E and cardiac team, who, following a cardiac arrest, spent half an hour fighting to bring me back. They've given me an extra 10 years on my life, which to see me here today. I would not have made it to another hospital. I was told that. What I actually wanted to ask about tonight was whether the panel from CCG are aware of what is happening in our A&E services and the capacity. Do they know that today there were 61 people waiting in the Alex A&E? Many of those were the overflow that Worcester Royal could not cope with and sent to Redditch. How many times is this happening? When are you going to get told?
The answer is yes, we are aware, hourly, daily, 24/7 basis of what's happening in the A&E departments. And it has clearly been a very busy winter and continues as we move into spring. It goes back to the previous question and answer. Yes, if these changes occur, we would see patients who currently go to the Alex having to go to other hospitals for good clinical reasons, things like trauma, stroke, heart attacks, where the clear evidence is there.
Those hospitals are already
so additional capacity would have to be put into those other hospitals to guarantee patient safety. And that's the reason why these changes will not occur overnight. They need to occur over the next 18 months once agreement has been reached, because additional capacity will have to be put in to make sure that people not going to the Alex, going elsewhere, get the highest quality care. Because I think we've just heard, clinically that is simply not viable. We would love as a clinical commission to want to buy every range of service we could at the Alex, because why wouldn't we for local people? We've been told that is not clinically possible. So what we have to do is secure the very best range of services we can locally. We've heard some really attractive proposals this evening, which actually is going to be more patient care delivered at the Alex than is currently delivered. So there'll be new services, hopefully, at the Alex, but some patients who would have gone to the Alex will need to go elsewhere, and we will make sure that capacity is there. That's our job as commissioners. And these changes will not occur until that capacity is safely in place.
Okay, Neil.
Just go on, that capacity has been at the heart of this, and the campaign has always argued that between Worcester Royal and the Alexandra, they respond between them. If one's busy, you go to the other. And we've always questioned what would happen if one was to lose these key services. Again, going to option 2, having met with them, what they are saying is they want people to stay in Redditch. They don't want the overflow to come to Birmingham because they are worried about the capacity. They are being honest. So the more emergency services they can provide, the less capacity they have, which is a completely different outlook on it from what Worcester Acute Trust is saying. Basically, we can cope with it, but I can't cope with it at the moment. And I think you're looking at 2 to 3 years for Worcester Royal on their current building schedule with no money to do so. So there's a real concern around how Worcester would cope.
May I suggest option 3? Leave us alone. Let us carry on over here.
I guess option
I'm Matt Stillsley, a former mayor and councillor of this town, and I am also a community leader. I am here tonight to support Redditch people. It's them we care about. We have people coming from all over the place, using our hospitals. Our own people can't get in because of Worcester and other places. It's people that matter, not options.
Thanks, Madge. Can I, and there's quite a lot of people, I'm sure, in this hall who know Madge. This is an issue that you know a lot of people are passionate about, and so they should be. Can I just ask you, please, to just keep your questions short and concise if you can? That would be really helpful because we want to get as many people in and give them the opportunity to ask questions. So the gentleman, which is I think row 9 at the top.
Good evening, Greg, formerly chairman of the Redditch and Bromsgrove Primary Care Trust, and used to working with Jonathan Wells in the past. May I congratulate the clinical commissioning group, which doesn't yet exist, on the work that it's done so far in working at the Birmingham option. Now, I think that the arguments that we've seen presented to us tonight would forecast support for the Birmingham option when it comes to be presented to the town on a parity with the Worcestershire Acute Trust proposal. But I think there are some worries about getting to that before we can get into that stage. Firstly, about the impact upon the rest of the county and indeed the workings of the Acute Trust, the Worcestershire Acute Trust. Now, the slide has said that the commissioning groups in the county, the 3 of them, will work together on arriving at a good solution for the county. Now, if Redditch and Bromsgrove districts represent 2/5 of the population of the county, and that's excluding the people who use the Alex who come from Warwickshire and outlying areas, losing that population, that client group, if I might use that phrase, from Worcester and Kidderminster is bound to have quite an impact upon those 2 hospitals and indeed the populations who use them. To what extent will, and this is perhaps for Simon as much as Jonathan, to what extent will those fears and arguments be brought into play by opponents to our future in order to ensure that the Worcestershire Acute Trust gets as much input from its clients in order to safeguard its financial position and risk to the PFI scheme?
Yes, I can certainly take that. And I think some of those fears and worries have already been played out in the media over the last few weeks. The reason why the three clinical commission groups, so ourselves, Redditch and Bromsgrove, Wyre Forest and South Worcestershire Clinical Commission Group, all support development of option 2 is we think it could well be a very good option for all Worcestershire residents. Because it leaves Worcestershire Chief Hospitals Trust in a very strong position, providing services in Worcester and Kidderminster. They've already done the initial financial work, which suggests that they would be financially viable under option 2 and option 1. There's not a lot in it. That's because they lose income. Of course, they also lose costs as well, and it means that they would, for South Worcestershire residents, need to develop services on the Worcester site. And for Wyre Forest Kidderminster patients, they will need to develop services on the Kidderminster site. So I know there have been worries and fears played out, but the reason why the three clinical commission groups jointly want to see option 2 worked up is because we think this could be a win-win for the county. It would leave Worcestershire Acute Hospitals Trust in a strong position providing services in Worcester and Kidderminster to their populations, and it would leave us locally in Redditch and Bromsgrove with potentially a very good solution looking to Birmingham. So as we move out through engagement and consultation, I don't doubt that those fears and worries will be played out, but that's where we are today, and we need to sort of manage those and make sure that the information is out there and we reduce worries elsewhere in the county.
Okay, thank you. Gentleman at the back.
Hello, can you hear me?
Can hear you.
I'm interested to understand, if you can explain to me, we're talking about the Birmingham Trust showing an interested organisation to get involved. What are the benefits to them? Because we're talking about there are benefits to us as a town. Can you tell us what the understanding of what the benefits to them that they're looking for to get from getting involved?
I think one of the great attractions of option 2 is that there are definite advantages to the QE for getting involved and running the ALEX. And we've heard earlier that they are very keen to maximise the amount of emergency work that happens at the Alexandra site. And that is in order to keep the pressure off the QE site, because they are concerned that if emergency work isn't kept at the ALEX, that it will drift northwards, because they know that our patients would rather go up to Birmingham than down to Worcester. So therefore they're worried that what would happen is that they would get overrun with emergency patients up at QE, and they've already pretty full up there. So it would work for them. They would be able to maximise the range of services at the ALEX, and it may well be that patients in the south of Birmingham, just north of Redditch, would start to use a University of Hospital branded branch hospital, if you like, or integrated part of UHB, and would come down to the ALEX and start using it as well, which would take pressure off the QE. So there is something definitely in it for them. It would enable them to, as I say, protect their site in the QE.
Okay, Neil?
It's very much about capacity, isn't it? You've got option 2, UHB, who are saying, yes, we recognise the capacity issue. We want planned management of people coming to us, not just Worcester saying, yes, we can cope, and then it doesn't happen. And they recognise that, and they've got the money to invest in our hospital and maximise those services, as opposed to Worcester, who, in my mind, have their head in the sand around this capacity issue. And I just don't see, now that they've been dragged kicking and screaming to provide more than what they wanted in the first place, can say that they're going to be sustainable in delivering that capacity at Worcester. And we've heard already that they transferred to Redditch, and they just don't have the money, in my mind, to be able to invest to sort out those capacity issues, and have kind of scooted over it very much.
Okay. can I have the gentleman row 9? Just at the back. Yeah.
I just wanted to echo what the first gentleman said. I had a very, very similar experience. My wife went to give birth at the Alex. Should have been a low-risk birth. My daughter was found to be breech when she went there. Emergency cesarean. My daughter had to be resuscitated at birth. Only just pulled through. And I'm convinced that if she had to have been moved to Birmingham or even to Worcester, my daughter would have been dead before she'd have left the site of the Alex. I think we are condemning potentially babies and even mothers to an early death by not trying to maintain a full consultant-led service in obstetrics at the Alex.
It's an absolute fair point, and I agree with you 100%. Unfortunately, the harsh reality is that we cannot get anyone to provide obstetrics and gynecology at the Alex Hospital. It's not that we've not tried, we cannot get anyone to do it. There is no one to do it for the clinical change reasons, etc., etc. So we can't focus on that. We can't focus on that because looking into the future, it is not sustainable to have full obstetrics and gynecology at all DGHs. However,
they won't, nobody will be able to make
it just isn't. I'm sorry, and I hate to have to say it, but it is just the fact that we have to face. Now, what will happen in the future is, if the public wants it, there will be a midwife-led unit, which is the equivalent risk of a home delivery, except in a unit. If mothers want to take...
treat it exactly the same as a home delivery.
Yeah.
It is in a unit, but you have nothing there.
That's what I just said, yeah. A midwife-led unit is the same risk as a home delivery, absolutely. So women will need to know that, and will have to make a choice as to whether they have the delivery equivalent to a home delivery in a midwife-led unit, or whether they would rather go and have the delivery in a consultant-led unit, but that would be in Worcester or Birmingham Women's. And I'm very sorry about that, but I can't do anything about it. We don't have the power over that.
Okay, I'm going to take comments from Lainey and then Neil. And while they're commenting, could I have the next batch of questions? So if you put your hands up, I'll try to get to everybody. There's plenty of time, so we will get to try and get to as many people as we can. If you just raise your hands, I'll just jot it down. So, but I'll take Lainey first, and then Neil.
Okay, I'd just like to say I think staffing at the Alex has become a real issue at this moment in time because the staff have lost confidence in their management. I think there is an opportunity with the University of Birmingham Trust to attract better staffing, better rounds of staffing, and far more numbers. And I think in time that maternity unit could grow and expand again. I understand what Dr. Wells is saying. I do understand that there is a shortage, but I think part of that is we're not going to be able to attract the best of the best to the Alex until there is a sustainable confidence in the management team.
Absolutely right. Lots and lots of questions and concerns about midwife-led units, and indeed my first child was told everything was fine and was breech in the emergency cesarean, and it's a scary thing to go through. And I think that's why we want trying to be as open and as honest with what is being said about, and hopefully what will come out and what I will make sure comes out is what does a midwife-led unit mean? What is it capable to do? It's not the situation the Savethealex campaign wanted to achieve, but as I said before, don't want anybody going away thinking we've lost the argument. The argument we won, the commissioner went out to buy the full service. Now, if we could change that, and if somebody could provide it, or somebody can come to the campaign and say, that case for change, that number of consultants provided is wrong, I'd love to, because we have searched up and down through pages upon page of documents, and it's the one thing which we've been unable to disprove. And absolutely, I was concerned as anybody about the midwife-led units, because having seen it with my first child, it scared the wits out of me, and it's something that has to be questioned. And when it comes to consultation, it has to be something that the public understands, that they make a decision whether we should have one or not.
That's good. Yes. I'm actually married to a midwife who works at the Alex, and she would agree totally with what the two gentlemen have said. Although you can, there are tests you can run and measurements you can make, etc. You can't always predict. You know, the low birth won't become a high risk birth very, very quickly. And she would share your concerns. However, she also acknowledges that there is a shortage of consultants, there's a shortage of midwives, and I suppose the question really that we will have to ask ourselves, absolutely, and the question we'll have to ask ourselves is if the women of this Redditch and Bromsgrove and in this area, if they feel that the risk is far too great for them, that they won't use an MLU, then their only option is to go to one of the two consultant-led units, and the MLU eventually will close because there won't be the number of deliveries there. But it has to be very strong. It has to be the woman with a partner, the individual choice, talking to a consultant and to a midwife, and making that informed choice and knowing what all the risks are. That's what I would say.
I'd just like to say the Alex maternity group, 22 years, I can only speak for 22 years, has never, ever had a midwife with staffing problem. There's a waiting list. People queue up to work at the Alex.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Ian. I've got 7 people for this batch of questions, and when this group is finished, then I'll ask people to show their hands again, please. So, and by the way, this is being streamed live on the internet, so there are people watching who are not here in this hall, and there's comments coming through to Ian. And one of the comments is that could people, or could I, announce whether people are at the top or at the bottom? That's what I want to know. So this question, this question is coming from row 5, from the top of the upstairs of the hall. Row 5, there's gentlemen, row 5.
Thank you. My name is Kevin Tibbett. I'm a resident. I have no great affiliation to a council. My question is about the decision-making process. It's strikes me you've now got an opportunity, because you've now formed this new CCG, to actually take control of the whole procurement process, where you dictate what happens, where you can actually say, these are our requirements. And you can issue the same document, the same requirements to Worcester, to Birmingham, perhaps to Warwick as well. My question is, are you actually planning to do that, where you actually formalise the procurement process in the same way that other government bodies do, to actually be fair to all providers? And there is just no way of doing that within government.
Okay, perhaps I could take that. I mean, we do have considerable local flexibility with how we spend 180 million locally. We do operate within a wider health service around, government policy and indeed the law. As I mentioned earlier, the way contestability works at the moment in the health service is changing and needs clarification undoubtedly. We could potentially go down a procurement process, which could probably take about a year, 18 months just to do the procurement process. Very long, very complicated, very expensive, and one of the real difficulties we'll have is making sure services continue to be safe and stable whilst we go through that process. I think that is a sort of last resort available to commissioners. I think if we can get a managed service change, which is a win-win for all the organisations involved, and we can do it without going through a formal procurement process, and I think it is a view that would be a far simpler, easier and quicker solution. But that's what we are testing at the moment, about whether we can get people in the position where we can work together and deliver that change in the health service, or whether we have to go down a wider, more complex procurement process. As a clinical commissioning group, we will do what we can to deliver what we promised this evening, and that is every effort to deliver a strong, vibrant hospital at the Alex. but we can't do absolutely everything on our own. We do need other organisations, including other statutory organisations, and of course the NHS Trust and the Foundation Trust are statutory organisations with their own boards and governors. We have some power to make things happen, but we ideally need everybody working together, and that's what we're trying to achieve.
Can I just make it clear? Do you actually make the decision?
We will make this, as the statutory body now responsible for local patients' care. We would consult in due course over the spring and summer, and it would be our decision as a clinical commissioning group. But we would have to be supported by the NHS Commissioning Board that oversees us and sits above us. So yes, ultimately it's our decision, but we do need to work with the wider NHS in delivering this decision.
My point is, you have an opportunity to take a bigger lead rather than just say we are influenced by everybody else. You take more leadership to say this is how we're going to do it.
Absolutely, and I think what you hopefully heard this evening, that given where we were last year as an emerging clinical commission group, and given some of the options potentially on the table for the future of the annex, we have grown a stronger voice. We have been clear about what is acceptable to us as a clinical commission group. We want to see option 2 worked up for the reasons. So yes, we are in a strong position to make things happen for local people. We are part of you, Rachel Bromsgrove, that's what's in our title. Why wouldn't we want to do the very best? Simply saying that we can't do everything entirely on our own. We do need help and support from the wider NHS, and we need to make sure we're able to do that.
Okay, Neil.
Just to be very clear on that, within these model or options over the next few months that are worked up, the preferred option that the clinical commission group will try and push for to go to final consultation will be very much influenced by us, the public, and hence the questionnaires on the sheet tonight. It's important we get that feedback. It's important for the Savethealex campaign, who are essentially an amplifier for the voice of the concerned people of Redditch, Bromsgrove and wider field. You've got to know what you're thinking and where you want to go with things based on what you've heard tonight. And because that does influence final decisions on where providers or who providers will and won't be.
Well, that's a really good point, that you've got the CCG here, and they don't assume statutory responsibility until 1st of April, but they're here and they're listening. That's a very powerful point. I mean, over 53,000 people petitioned, and that just goes to show the passion and how close this issue is to everyone's heart. So here's an opportunity to not just give your views to the CCG, but also ensure that you fill the questionnaire before you go and hand it in to the volunteers, please. Okay, the gentleman at the back row, please. This is, for those people watching on the internet, this is downstairs at the hall. Okay, yeah.
It's been reported by the BBC that last year the NHS returned £2 million to the Exchequer to help pay down the deficit. A deficit that many in this room will regard as having been run up by reckless casino bankers. It's been accepted, it appears, by everyone on the panel that there are insufficient doctors of the right grades to run the services which this town so badly needs. Why is this surplus not being invested to train these doctors?
No good questions, and I think we should go to politics. I'm not a politician, so I can't answer that. Unfortunately, even if you invest, as I tried to explain a bit earlier, even if you invest all the money that there is around now, it will still take 15 years to train the doctors at specialist level. But also, you can't have 3 specialist hospitals. You can't have a specialist hospital at every DGH because then the Royal Colleges would say that the specialists are not getting enough experience. Because to do, so for example, caesarean sections, you have to do a certain number to maintain your specialty level. And you need more consultants on site in order to provide 24-hour cover. So therefore, each specialist is getting less caesarean sections to do. So therefore, you need more concentration of services. It's not. I don't make the rules. That's just the way it is.
So we just give up then. So we just give up then.
It's not really a case. It's not a case of giving up. What we are with as a CCG, we have been faced with this fact that shows that the case for change is there. We've had to accept the case for change. Say the Alice campaign has had to accept the case for change, and we can't fight against that. What we're trying to do is to mitigate it, and we are adamant that the Alexander Hospital will continue to be a thriving hospital with a very wide range of services. And actually, the vast majority of what actually goes on there now will still go on there, plus new services. But I can't undo what's there. I can't change the case change.
Okay, so I mean, there are other people in the queue just asking questions. Your turn will come. Neil.
There's a very good question, and what needs to be sorted, and something the Savethealex campaign is calling on all parties of all colours to look at, is how to best manage how we get these doctors trained, because you've heard that it's going to take 15 years. Well, that needs to start today and now, because God knows when we'll be in 15 years.
Well, we're actually cutting the medical student intake next year by 2%.
So, write to your politicians is the answer and find out why that is.
Yeah. I guess this is a political issue in the sense that the local MPs should be approached and should be lobbied on this particular issue. Okay, the row 3, lady at 20.
Hi. My question is about finance. If we went with option 1, how are Worcester going to fund this? If they only have 197,000 on their bottom line, where are they going to get the money from to fund it?
Option 1 is the financial appraisal shows that it is just sustainable by 2015. That does assume that 30 million of savings have been made in the meantime. Over the next 3 months, when we need to option, well, technically it is fine. So we get off technically it is fine. So it is there, and then obviously option 2 will be worked up, and obviously that will be very careful looking at over the next 3 months and beyond.
So, Jonathan, just to clarify, you've got the local elections coming up, which means that you'll be in Perda for that period. So you will, but I guess TCG will be. But I mean, in terms of you'll be in Perda. So, so in terms of the consultation, I mean, when do you think that you'll be able to announce the options? I mean,
well, we won't be announcing anything. What we'll be doing is after the council elections, because unfortunately, anything to do with the NHS does get used as a political football, and politicians do have to go off on one. So, good point. So what we need to do is to not make any political statements during the council elections, work up option 2 as much as we can, and then in May and June come out to full engagement, have more of these types of meetings, find out from the public what they think of the options, and you will then tell us, your CCG, what you want us to do. We're only making the rules. We're not making a decision here. You will tell us what you want, and we will then try and achieve it.
Let me just bring in Julie here, because I think one of the things that we will need to do, and indeed we need your help and support for, is the sort of engagement process that we need to undertake in May and June, the listening process. I think many of you might have sat through the listening events of last summer. I know there are strong views about those events. Some bits probably worked well, some bits clearly didn't. And we want to be more inclusive and to get those events better and linked to your needs. So Julie, perhaps we'll just say something about how we intend to do that.
And actually, I think tonight's a really good example of that as well, because, I'm absolutely, I've been working, I've been a patient in the contract for the last 45 years, and I've had experiences of the Alex and Mr. Acute and the QE. So I've had all those experiences. But what I would want to say to you is, I'm absolutely passionate about the fact that we should get the voice of patients and public in Redditch and Bromsgrove heard, not just people that are here tonight, not just the people that are involved with the Savethealex, because that does represent a third of the people of our area, but I want to get the other 2/3 voice heard as well. So I'm absolutely dedicated to work in partnership with Neil and Ian to make sure that the part that you want to play in that is also taken into account, but also that we actually find ways of getting hold of those people that don't come out to meetings in the evening and don't come and don't fill in questionnaires and things like that. So we'll be looking at those processes, and I will be asking you, as I'm sure will Neil and Ian, to make sure that we can get out to as many people as possible and get as many people as possible involved. And I'm not proud. I'll take any suggestions anybody wants to give me on that. But I certainly think that we'll be doing a lot of publicity. We'll be using the media as much as possible. We'll also be engaging in with those very hard to reach groups that find it very difficult to get involved. So please, don't think that I'm going to sit here on my hands, freezing cold like I am, and not actually be asking you to make sure that you get your voice heard as well, because that's going to be really important to all of us. We're all members of the public. We're all patients in this area.
Thanks, Judy. Judy Adams.
He said just sustainable and possible savings. They are definitive answers, aren't they? Where is the money going to come from?
I think that Ian Dibble wants to come on the issue of finance, but just before I was going to say, in terms of Judy Adams, obviously being a patient public involvement lead, obviously she'll be engaging and can give views to her. But on the issue of finance, Ian.
Just to answer the question, the answer is no, they don't have any money. There is no spare cash to invest, as they admitted in the Reddit standard last week. There is no money. So in order to invest in patient services, they'll have to make a surplus, and I don't see how they're going to do that. In regards to the question about efficiency savings, the plan was to make £15 million this year, 15 million next year, and the rest will kick in from the JSR. Well, they've missed their target this year, because they're only going to make about 12 million. There's a 3 million shortfall to roll over next year. And that's it. And when they're quoted in the media as saying, we'll be okay as long as we don't have another winter like we had like this one, cross our fingers and hope for it. The fact is, the whole reason for the trust going out to the JSR in the first place is they did not believe they were sustainable over 3 sites. So this idea they can suddenly maximise services at the Alex is absolutely ridiculous. And in my personal opinion, what you will see happen is if they'll never even get to that point, those services never even get put in. Or if they are, they'll fall over very quickly. So the truth is, they have no money, they cannot do this.
True. Okay, moving on to questions. Lady at the top, row 4.
Thank you. Last June, the campaign was about saving. Rebecca Blake, one of the Labour councillors and Labour parliamentary spokesperson. Last June, we found out that the campaign was about saving A&E and maternity, and people on the front desk there were working very hard towards that, but you've admitted that actually that won't be the case. And you are working very hard, but there's questions that need to be asked beyond the table at the front, is to the money that's the other person that questioned about, there is money in the NHS. They did return 1.35 billion back to the Treasury last year. There's rumours that it'll be 3 billion this year. Part of the reason we're in this situation in Worcestershire for 50 million is because the Joint Services Review acknowledged that money needed to be saved. But there is 3 billion for reorganisation. Now, our hopes are pinned on Savethealex because of a lack of political leadership that we've got and the shape and the state of the country with 24 A&Es having to be closed. That's currently where we are, and Redditch is in that position as well. And I'd like to hold the people who said for political accountability, we have David Cameron say that he would fight a bare-knuckle fight to save A&E. Where are the people to defend our A&E now? And you can clap because it's not very popular to put the political argument, but it is politicians that decide the shape of our NHS, and that's why we're fighting here tonight. So we need some political leadership, please. We need some political leadership, and we need the money spent on patients, not reorganisation.
Okay.
I can respond to that. Like the Savethealex campaign has from day one been non-political. It had to be that. The reason it has to be that is because I want everybody of every party, colour, whatever, to support local services at the hospital. Where questions need to be asked around funding or training of doctors, there are clear contacts for that to be made. And indeed, we've worked with Karen Lumley, our MP, we've worked with Rebecca Blake, parliamentary spokesman, we've worked with Phil Hahn, leader of Redditch Council, we've worked with Chris Tain, leader of Stratford Council, and Roger Hollingworth, leader of Bromsgrove Council, and other parties. It is so important that whatever party you come from, whatever your beliefs on how the NHS should be managed or not managed, or that it's all about local services, and that's where the campaign is coming from, and where we have to be, and where I have to be, because I've sat on the other side of the audience previously, is we have to be honest, and whilst it is bitterly disappointing around the case change, there aren't the doctors, I want to know why there's not the doctors, what's being done about it yet, but be honest with you that at the moment, the campaign cannot achieve the no change situation. It would be wrong for me to say we can, because we'd go away and come back in November feeling very disappointed. What we have to do is maximise what we can, and we're doing that because we've got UHB option on the table.
Thanks, Neil.
We are here not because of politics, but because of people.
Thanks, Matt. Lady here, bottom
my parents both live in Somerset at the moment, which is a 6-hour railway journey for me. My dad has just had a heart attack, and my mother has had 2 mini strokes. 3 years ago, I was insisting that they moved up here where we had a good hospital, and I could visit them and look after them when they weren't actually in the hospital. I can't get to Worcester, they don't drive, so they couldn't easily visit each other in Worcester either if either of them was in there. I need to know what I should be doing, whether they should be moving up here or I should be moving down to Yeovil where they live. For this to just keep dragging on is terrible. I need to know what Birmingham could offer so that I know whether they should be putting their house on the market before they get too frail to actually move.
Absolutely. I mean, we need to get, as we said previously, options worked out. Be very, very clear to people around what services are available at the Alex site under both options, where patients and people go, visitors go, if services aren't available locally, We need to work with you on the engagement process around how we share information, and we need to get out to consultation as quickly as we can, but making sure that we've got some very clear options for people to consider, and you then need to let us know what your views are, because as we said before, we must listen. It would be unlawful for us to make decisions without having consulted and taken on board local views. And as we said earlier, the stronger and clearer the views of local people are, the more it helps the CCG make the right decision for local people in due course. So yes, I mean, I suppose sorry that it's taken over a year to get where we are, but I think we are in a better position now than we were last autumn, where we faced perhaps a very significant reduction in services. We do now need to get on with this as quickly as possible, work with you on engagement, get out for consultation, and make a decision to jump on the in the autumn. And I hope that will then be clear about what the options are for people. But keep going back to, we're not talking about closing A&E. We're not talking about taking paediatric services out, elective surgery outpatients. The vast majority of patient care will continue to be operated from the ALEX site, supplemented, we hope, by additional services, some services where patients actually have to go to Birmingham for at the moment, but could be provided locally. It's our intention to deliver more healthcare in the ALEX hospital than is currently delivered now. It's just that it will be different. It was different 5 years ago, it was different 10 years ago, and it will be different in 5 to 10 years' time just because medicine changes and things are different. That's a commitment there, but sorry it's taking time, but we've got to get this right, because the very worst thing we could do is make a quick, poor decision now, and I think we all know we'd be back in this room in 3 to 5 years' time, and we don't want to do that. We owe it to the staff who work there and patients who go there to get a good solution that's going to last for the foreseeable future.
Thanks, Simon. We're going at the top, row 5.
Thank you very much. Can I first of all say thank you to you all for working so hard to get to the situation that we're in today, where we're having a reduction in this because I'm sure it hasn't been easy. I want to go back to maternity service, and I'm really sorry to say this because you've already said that we can't have maternity services as they are at this moment. We are having so many houses built in Redditch. We're going to have over 6,000, nearly 7,000 houses built in the next few years. So there are going to be more and more people requiring maternity services. As a woman, I know what it's like to give birth. I actually went to Bromsgrove in my day in the back of an ambulance to give birth to my daughter, my firstborn child. But I know that the ALEX has got and I might be talking right off the top of my head, please laugh if you feel like it, but we have a helicopter pad at the ALEX. There's also one at the QE, there isn't one, or I believe they may be building one at Worcester now. But would it be against the bounds and in view of these very serious cases where we're saying that a baby would not live to get to Bromsgrove, or a mother could die on the way, to Worcester or to Birmingham, hopefully Birmingham, I have to say. Is it not beyond the bounds of possibility that we could get a doctor to a mother in that sort of situation in a very quick time by helicopter? And can we not put some money into that, or get someone somewhere to put money into getting more?
You need 2 doctors and an anaesthetist.
Right. Well, I think a helicopter would hold 2 doctors and an anaesthetist.
You cannot do caesarean sections in a midwife-led unit, which is what we would have at the ALEX. A midwife-led unit, you wouldn't have an obstetric theatre because everyone would lose their skills, which is what you keep saying. The reason we've got to lose it in the first place is because people won't retain their skills. You can't run a midwife-led unit and then say, oh God, we need to do a caesarean section. That was the problem with Kidderminster, and look where that got us. So no, and the other option to take the obstetric patient to Worcester is a no-no in a helicopter because we
So do
can't
we get
actually
the
get to
child
the
dying
abdomen.
then?
Well, I don't want this to happen. It's not me. I don't want it to close. I'm just stating that you can't put obstetric patients in helicopters because they go in the wrong way.
No, to be very clear, I'm absolutely right to raise the Kidderminster midwife unit, and the reason that didn't work, hence why I wanted to come across absolutely clear, and I'm sure that did Jonathan and his colleagues absolutely clear what we're talking about. No ifs, buts, or hidden maybes. And when it comes to consultation, ultimately it'll be your choice. I don't know if someone wants to add to that.
I think we've sort of cleared around a bit. Really. I think it's around. I mean, there are well-used, safe midwifery-led units operating up and down this country where women choose to go there. I think is the assessment of risk is very different to where it was 5 or 10 years ago. But obviously, even low-risk mums occasionally have problems, and then you need really good transport links, emergency ambulance to an obstetric unit. Not quite sure helicopters come into it, but I suspect they do international. I'm sure they must do. But at the end of the day, in theory, up to sort of about half of all births could be considered low risk. Where units get into a problem is when suddenly, it's 100, 200 mums using it. It then becomes unsafe because the midwives aren't skilled up, the capacity isn't there, etc. I think what we will do as a clinical commission group at the moment, we have providers saying that they are willing to provide a midwifery-led unit. Quite frankly, we would need to set out all the benefits, clear benefits, because mums, dads do choose them up and down the country with home births. But risk set out, choice there, and at the end of the day, it's going to be around. If people use it, and it will be used and hopefully flourish. And if frankly people don't want it, then it won't happen. It is around offering choice. They are used up and down the country. They're not without risk. But clearly, they predominantly safe. Otherwise, patients will use them. As Jonathan said, it's the individual decision.
I suggest the panel look at midwifery-led units that are opened elsewhere in response to the closure of the consultant unit, just like what we're saying here. Look elsewhere, anywhere in the country. You only affect initially, if lucky, a fifth of your deliveries. What actually delivers them is more like a tenth. And within 2 years, 99% of them are closed. So don't go down that road. We need to be absolutely clear of what midwifery-led units are, what they can deal with. The public needs to know, but it's the same as a hospital at home delivery. It's no different, it's the same as a home delivery.
Can I bring Jonathan?
Well, I completely agree with what you're saying, and that's
and they all close eventually because they are not viable.
We're committed to putting it out there in consultation for you to then tell us whether you want it or not. And if you don't, then we won't have it. It's absolutely clear.
Okay, I'm going to take the next question. We've got 15 minutes left, and then we have to wind this up really. So I'm really sorry that I know there's so many people wanting to ask questions. Can I just say that if you have really burning question, a question that's not been asked before, then please do raise your hand, and I'll come to you. So 15 minutes left, burning questions, please, okay? So I'll go to the top first. Gentleman at the front, I'll take the lady. I'll come down to you. I'll take you. 1, 2. Okay, yes, you're on the list. We'll come to you first, sir. Apologies for that. I'll take you, sir, yourself, and I'll go back to the lady at the top. Okay, 3 questions. Yes?
Hi, my name is Simon Oliver. I'm chair of Redditch and Inkborough Lib Dems, just for information purposes. My question is about the Royal College guidance, the requirement for 10 consultants, and the mention twice of telemedicine. Now, I happen to know that there's clinical trials going on for a virtual presence device which allows a consultant to be pretty much anywhere in the world and consulting on a case. How much do you think that might change the Royal College guidance in 5 or 10 years when we catch up with this?
I guess it's possible. The 10 whole-time equivalent of looking at A&E is to ensure that you have an A&E consultant in the unit. So, for example, if you take the QE A&E, at the moment they have a consultant there 16 hours a day at the front door, and from the 1st of April I understand that there'll be a consultant there 24 hours a day. So when you get taken over for major trauma or heart attack or stroke, then you'll be seen by the most senior team there. The advantage of the telemedicine is that it will help with the help to increase the numbers of patients that can be managed at the Alexandra site, and they'll be able to have a consultant opinion remotely, looking at X-rays, looking at diagnostic tests, etc. So that may be one of the ways in which they can increase the percentage of patients that can be seen safely locally.
Okay, we're going at the top, row 1, the gentleman here.
My big concern is when you talk about home care, single people that have no families, what is the outlook for them?
Home care?
You might have missed the question. Can you just repeat it, sir?
What is at the moment? I'm a single person. I moved up here for work. I don't have a family up here to get me to hospital. So what happens with the new thing? Is there any help for the people like me, or is there no help?
Yes, there's lots of help. One of our main responsibilities is to develop community care, the virtual ward, all the community, district nursing staff, etc., working closely with social services as well. So yes, there is lots of support out there in the community. And as I was in one of my slides trying to make clear, we need actually to be treating more patients outside hospital and avoiding the need for patients to go to hospital, because there are lots of conditions that can be treated very safely in patients' homes or otherwise, and we're doing lots of work on that.
Thank you, Jonathan. Gentleman here at the front.
Richard Hawker. Is this working?
Straight. Yeah, it's working, Richard.
Richard Hawker, resident Asphalt Bank. All my life I've paid my taxes, etc., and I've always believed in a national health service from cradle to grave. And my taxes and national health service, not been only the Alex, okay, 5 years, 6 years ago, I was a cancer patient there. It's not only the Alex, it's anywhere in this country, and everywhere in this country has a right to have the service that they have paid for. And I do not understand, why one area will have a bottom line of 190 or 100 and something thousand pounds, and another area will have a surplus of 50 million, I think Neil quoted, whatever it may be. I do not see that as how my taxes and my money has been misappropriated. I feel that my money is there for all of us. It is here at the Alex, it is at Worcester Hospital, it's wherever there needs to be a hospital. And I feel that our ways are getting lost. And this is political, but across the board. As I say, 6 years ago, it was the Labour Party that were dilatory with the Alex. Now it's a Conservative-led government that's dilatory with the Alex, etc. So I've got no bones as to who this should be aimed at. It just seems to me that it's smoke and mirrors now. The government are passing, or governments are passing the responsibilities for expenditure and public purse and looking after the public purse. They're passing the responsibilities down to various people, clinical commissioning group, and they will be scapegoats when they are unable to provide the services like the Alex requires. And I think that they should fear for themselves as much as politicians should fear for themselves as well.
I thank you very much for your support.
You wear it all the time.
To add to that, ultimately, should be a patient-led test. And if the patients don't change, we're always here, and we're always going to need our hospitals. And I think the government of all colours needs to remember that. And thankfully, if the user and we want to have a say in how they're provided for whatever setup and management style they come up with next.
Simon. A lot of what you say is absolutely correct. I mean, as a clinical commissioning group, suddenly we don't have a magic wand. We inherit all the policies, financial difficulties, staffing issues, clinical concerns, all of those issues that the Primary Care Trust has wrestled with over the last few years. Why are we doing it then if it's going to be that difficult? We're doing it because we believe it's the right thing to do to support local people and mention bonds growth. We believe that we will do a better job than anybody else doing it because inherently we're run by local clinicians, GPs, who at the end of the day have the interest of local people in Redditch and Bromsgrove at heart, not Worcestershire or West Midlands or anybody else. So yeah, I mean, look, you know, we're aware, we've got them with our eyes open, we're going to have some really, really difficult issues to tackle over the coming years. We're sitting here being hopefully, I think, quite open and honest and transparent with you about those difficulties, sitting alongside you saying that frankly, with a magic wand, we'd waive it today, wouldn't we? We wouldn't be here this evening. We have got those inheritances. We can't solve them all sitting around this table. We've got to try to come up with the best deal we can for local people, which is why I want to work with you. But inherently, we do think we'll do a better job than hopefully others will do for local people because we are, as I say, a local clinical commission group solely around looking after the interests of Redditch and Bromsgrove.
I'll go top, and this is row 3, the lady in row 3. Yes.
I'm Mary Jones. I'm a resident of Redditch, but I'm a public governor with Birmingham and Solihull, who have very successful foundation status now. One of the questions I'd like to ask is, what is the financial risk rating for Worcester NHS? Birmingham Solihull has come out at 4, 5 being excellent, obviously 4 we would consider to be very good. So Monitor have no concerns, no regulatory concerns about finances. And the governance risk ratings has come out of green, again, which is excellent. So they are meeting all of Monitor's performance targets, and there is no concerns whatsoever about service delivery. So, you know, I think personally, if I had the choice, I would opt to use Birmingham, the Queen Elizabeth, rather than Worcester or maybe even Redditch for that matter.
Thank you for that. Can I bring in Ian Dibble, please?
Just to answer your question about what its risk rating is, it was 1 with Monitor, which meant there was absolutely no chance it would make its foundation trust status. And that was mainly due to a liquidity problem that it's got as a result of the historic debt it's carrying over from its huge overspend between 2001 and 2006. It took out a loan of about £12 million in December, I think it was, that was approved, and they're now free as a result of that loan. But obviously, in order to pay it back, they're going to need to make a 1.3 million surplus bare minimum over the next 9 years. So, but yeah, they are rated free, so in theory would pass that test from Monitor.
So
okay, I'll take 2 more questions, but from people who haven't spoken before, please, and if it's a really burning issue. So I've got a gentleman here, lady at the top. Okay, I'll take one more, lady here. Okay, that's awesome. Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir.
Both presenters went to a great deal of effort to present slides for us. I'm afraid my eyesight wasn't good enough to see them. Could they not be made available on Savethealex website so that those of us could actually have a slow read of the efforts and the words that were put to text?
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you for the question. Neil.
Also, just to add that this meeting is being webcast and can be viewed again, is my understanding, sort of my technical gurus, via YouTube. So yeah, we will aim to have the slides up, detailed information around the case of change, and indeed a video for the campaign one. It's all about you, the public, very much understanding what is being said, why it's being said, so you can feed back constructive, informative decisions and opinion to the people actually buying the services.
Thank you. Lady at the top row. Yeah, second row.
The Annex is a very good hospital. They have good staff there, and I want the people to get better at the Annex.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Fully support that. We recognise the very hard work done by the medical staff at the Annex. We're not talking about changing the medical staff there, far from it. We're talking about enabling them to be able to work in the best possible environment and getting rid of this uncertainty that's been hanging over them for so long.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you. The lady on the end of the panel, and forgive me, I didn't catch your name. You said it was going to be your utmost to make sure that you contacted as many people as possible to let them know all about this. I know how we got 53,000 signatures on the petition that came in, because I was one of those who was on the streets helping to collect them. Could you please give me some more indication of how you're going to do it, particularly to reach those far-fetched or otherwise? And for the purpose of the person here, I am Councillor for Batchley and Brockhill, and I know I have a large number of people who don't leave their homes. You said media. They choose to watch David Dickinson, not necessarily perhaps the programmes you will. They don't all, sadly, get the good newspapers from Ian and his colleagues. How are you going to reach them? How are they going to get their answers to you, please?
Yeah, this is a question to Judy Adams.
You've sort of given me an answer, haven't you, in a way, because actually, yes, we'll be going out to those community places. We'll be going out to those community places that Savethealex went out to.
Sorry, Judy, how and who?
Well, there are going to be plenty of us that have volunteered to do that. I think Savethealex will help us. But you know, you were saying that you work in one of the community in Batchley.
I have the honour to be the councillor for Batchley.
Absolutely. Well, we will be asking people like councillors to help us with this. We'll be asking people like the community workers to help us do this. We haven't got an army of people to do it, so we're going to have to ask people that are already working in the community and our community leaders to actually engage with us as partners. We've got no other way of doing it. You know, so you know yourself from having to try and get to those people. How did you? I mean, bearing in mind you answered the question as I say slightly yourself, because you said about Savethealex and signatures to the petition. Presumably in Batchley that was because people like yourself and other people were going out there to visit those people, perhaps that don't come out even to the shops to do those sorts of things. So as I said, we can only do it the best way we know, which is to work in partnership with as many people as possible. I can't think of any other way of doing that. We can't do a door-to-door campaign because we just haven't got the resources to be able to do that any more than I think the Savethealex people have that either. So I can't offer you a definitive answer to that. I can only say that if we can't use partners like local councillors, like community workers, then we won't be able to get out to those people. But I'm hoping that that's what we'll be able to do.
Okay, thanks, Judy, and I'm really sorry, but our time is up. I know that so many people want to ask questions.
Excuse me. If you give us the cost, then I can promise that we will put an advert on over it for free
on any political leaflets we put out. I'm sure the other parties will.
Okay, there's an offer to help you, and I'm sure there'll be many more ways. I know that many people want to ask questions, and I'm really sorry, and I hope that I've given as many people opportunity to ask questions. And I hope that before you go, there's one more thing I like to do. So, but I do hope that while the cold may have kept us alert, the questions have kept us warm. Can I have show of hands? I think it's a good opportunity to see. There's a good cross section of people here. Good opportunity to see where people are leaning towards. I mean, I can't. It'd be unfair for me to say answer the direct question, I guess, whether you want the Worcestershire option or Birmingham option. But in terms of where would you like to go, and the reason I can't answer that question directly is because I guess we don't have further details. Well, we have the details of the Worcestershire option. We don't have all the details of Birmingham option. So this is the Birmingham. Where we had to travel to. Nobody's put their hands up to the top. Right, I'm going to ask for where would you like to travel? Because you've got a question, it's obviously you'll be handling the question, but where would you, if given the opportunity, where would you like to travel to? Now, those of you who want to go to Birmingham, can you put your hands up, please? Okay, thank you. And those of you who want to go to Worcester, can you put your hand up? Okay, I think
who wants to get up ready?
The first preference would be Redditch, but the second preference, which is a very strong message to the new CCG here, which they're going to take away with them, that the if Redditch isn't possible, then it would be Birmingham. And I'm sure that's something which the chair, Jonathan Wells, as well as the chief officer, Simon, both will be taking that away briefly. And in terms of the further consultation we want to do, I think the message here is pretty much very, very clear. Can we, in terms of the time they've given, we've all given up our valuable time to come here. Thank you on behalf of the Savethealex campaign for coming here tonight. I'm sorry if I made any mistakes and not given any opportunity, just an opportunity for someone to ask questions or ignored you. It wasn't intentional. But can we just give a round of applause to the CCG team here. And also to the Savethealex campaign. And supposed to be part of that, can I say that in terms of Savethealex campaign, they've achieved immensely. In terms of getting to a stage where people are more aware of the options, where people can influence. Otherwise, as I understand, the JSR, consulted sort of, 50 or 60 people in or whatever.
It was very fixed, limited public meetings.
So it is really important if decisions are going to be made, in consultation with residents, with the public. It is really important that we take a wider, group of people and we involve a wider group of people, and that's what Savethealex has done. So thank you again for taking.
And thank you all for coming out tonight, because the campaign that I said from day one is just an amplifier of your voice. You made it clear what we want, where our first option is, and where our second choice is. We have to go that road is. and that is making a difference. And I hope over the coming weeks and months you'll continue to have that influence over our new clinical commissioning group and our politicians and other bodies concerned with the future of our health system.
Partners of your coming here has been extremely valuable because the message sends a very, very strong message to the CCG. So thank you and good night.
Thank you.